So as we get closer to the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom being revealed, which many people feel that we're going to see that very soon with the Nintendo Direct, I think that this needs to be said about the title because I'm starting to see big content creators, people just in my chat, other people say all sorts of stuff with the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm not exactly sure if they understand exactly how big of a deal this game is going to be or what this game represents for so many gamers out there that are not plugged into the internet 24/7. So I've been hearing stuff like the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom will have trouble outselling the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or it might not do it at all, or it could flop in comparison. And while I've discussed this before, I kind of want to hone in on this as we get closer to the reveal of the game and kind of give you guys some more information on this when it comes to marketing, when it comes to the sales, and when it comes to the big thing with this title and what people do not understand. Now, 100%. I understand the frustration about the marketing. I understand the frustration with not seeing more on the game. I understand it's been a long time, and for many of you guys, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was the reason why you bought a Nintendo Switch. The Legend of Zelda is your favorite series of all time. There are so many reasons to be upset or frustrated when it comes to this game, and I completely get that. They announced the game back in 2019. That was only 2 years plus after The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild launched, and now here we are all the way on the other side of the generation in 2023, and the game is still not out yet, and we've seen literally like no gameplay. There's been so few parts. There's been a little bit, which has led to a lot of speculation in terms of what people think about the game, but Nintendo is intentionally not showing us so many things about this game, and I talked about that in a video not too long ago. I'll have a link for you guys in the description about why people are underestimating this game in this type of way when it's a follow-up to one of the most influential games of all time, one of the best-selling games of all time, and of course one of the highest rated games of all time. But the hype is still there. It's still massive. We're still seeing the Famitsu most anticipated top game there, obviously at the Game Awards last year with voters most anticipated title. We're still seeing people constantly talk about this game on Twitter. It trends. People are discussing Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and what is going on with it. I think that the hype is still there like crazy, and there's not really any worry about the other side of the audience, right? The non-hardcore on Twitter gamers or on YouTube looking at every single trailer or everything. I think that the casual core, and for those who don't know what that is, those are the people that love core games like Legend of Zelda or Mario or like other titles, but aren't online all the time talking about it, counting pixels and frames and Digital Foundry. They just like to play the games they like and enjoy their day or go to work, come back, play their games, and that's that. They're not doing all this stuff that we're doing. Casual core, I call it. My brother is one of those people, and he texts me sometimes and says, hey man, like I just like to do this. I'm not looking at all this other stuff that people are arguing back and forth at. And I think that sometimes all of us, we get kind of wrapped up in our bubble and we get lost in what the casual core consumer is looking forward to. And I can guarantee you there are millions upon millions upon millions of casual core consumers that just can't wait to play this game at some point. It doesn't matter when, whether they get it not at this point when it comes out in May, or they get it later, or they get it a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now. They're going to pick it up. They're going to get it. And I think that they're looking at it in the very same type of way in terms of just enjoying a game as anybody else is. They're just not going to go online and complain and be angry, try to talk about marketing. They're just going to wait for it to come out. But I do feel that this game is not only going to sell as much as Breath of the Wild, it's actually going to beat Breath of the Wild when it comes to the sales. And obviously that's a tall task, right? Breath of the Wild, 30 million units pretty much at this point. Very huge, much larger than any other Zelda game to date. But the difference though, this time is that the Nintendo Switch has 120 million users right there at launch. It's going to be an explosive launch, especially compared to what Nintendo has done before with other franchises that are coming out. That 120 million install base, all the active users that are buying games on the eShop, that are buying titles left and right, that have been supporting a lot of other franchises that have came out and have done well, there is not going to be a lack of people that are looking forward to play something on the Nintendo Switch in May. There is not going to be a lack of systems out there for people to go out there, pick it up and play. And it's going to be a massive seller across the world, as Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild still sells to this day. But I do think this, guys. I feel that if there's any company that we should believe in when it comes to selling games, especially first-party games, it's Nintendo. Nintendo Directs have turned into these like mega events that a marketing budget you would usually spend probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, or you'd spend thousands or maybe even more to get the type of publicity and eyes that a Nintendo Direct can do for your game. And Nintendo uses that to sell their biggest titles, stuff like Super Mario Odyssey, or stuff like Super Smash Brothers, stuff like Legend of Zelda, stuff like Metroid Dread. These are games that have literally been boosted so much by simply being in one Nintendo Direct, showing it off at one point, which Zelda, obviously it's been in Directs before in terms of their presentations, but now actually getting a blowout of information. This is going to be huge, and it's going to catapult Zelda to whatever marketing level in terms of how high things can get for a game, especially an exclusive. Zelda's going to get there when we see this game at a Direct, or when they simply just talk about the game at a presentation or a Zelda Direct, or whatever the case is. This is kind of how crazy hype they can get. Titles that wouldn't even sniff 1 million on other platforms. They wouldn't even get close to that. That wouldn't even be in the works. You put it on the Nintendo Switch at a Direct and it's an exclusive, or it's something that's heavily promoted for Nintendo systems, they sell considerably better. Look at games like Octopath Traveler, Live Alive, Triangle Strategy, Astral Chain. These are all titles that before on previous Nintendo systems that you would have never thought could sell 1 million units on a Nintendo platform. But the Nintendo Directs and how Nintendo's done things in the Switch era has completely flipped it on its head, and it's very similar to what the director of Master Detective Archives, Raincode, said recently, saying how Nintendo Directs completely changed things, and actually talked about, and this is Spike Chunsoft, and this is obviously the Danganronpa developer, they were PlayStation, but things have shifted so much with Directs and the type of AA style of Japanese games and the install base. They said, hey, look, we're gonna just focus on Switch because of what we can get out of the Directs, because of what Directs do, because of what the exclusive focus does. They can sell way more, and they brought up the whole triangle strategy from Square Enix versus DioField Chronicle. One of them was announced, DioField, at a PlayStation State of Play. The other one was announced at a Nintendo Direct, and Triangle Strategy blew DioField out of the water, and DioField is multi-platform on Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, PC. Triangle Strategy sold 800,000 units on Switch alone in 2 weeks and is over 1 million units at this point on Switch and PC, with the majority of it being on there. So I think that Nintendo Directs have this massive, huge impact on games. Regardless of how much marketing or whatever has been done before, Nintendo Directs always bring the best out of when it comes to the eyes on the game and everything. So when they do show it off, I don't really think there's going to be any issue at all when it comes down to it. Now, there'll be discussion on the game and what people like and don't like, but when it comes to the game itself, it's going to be impressive. It's going to be hype. It's going to be cool to see, and they're going to get it done with that. Now, I do understand, listen, Nintendo's not perfect, and I'm not going to sit here and preach like they are. When it comes to everything with the Switch, there's obviously things that they can improve and make better and all of that, but when it comes to selling games, Nintendo is pretty much second to none with first-party titles. Animal Crossing obviously sold so much. Mario Kart, games like Super Smash Brothers, Pokemon, Zelda, 3D Mario. I mean, these games are some of the biggest and best in the industry overall when it comes to sales. So I don't really have any issue when it comes to Nintendo's marketing or what they plan to do. They've always got an incredible plan to sell games, and all generation it's just been getting better and better, and sales have been going up and up across the board. And to be honest, guys, like with this stuff, when I hear people say, oh, it might not sell as much, or this, or they're, oh my gosh, the marketing is this and that, I'm like, we've heard this before. This song and dance has been said before with previous games, and they've been absolutely proven wrong, blown out of the water. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, there were content creators, there were people saying, there's not as much buzz, not as much hype, where's the marketing, there's not enough information. Yeah, we saw how that went when it comes to the sales. Same thing goes with Splatoon 3. People were saying, where's the gameplay at, where's anything at? It's too similar to Splatoon 2, it's the DLC pack, kind of summed off. Some people were saying that with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, despite not showing anything on the game so far, or at least not showing that much on the game. People were trying to say that, and nah, Splatoon 3 absolutely blew the doors off of Splatoon 2 sales at the beginning, and I would not be surprised if it passes up Splatoon 2 completely by mid this year or later in the year. It's definitely going to pass it up. It sold like 8 million units on the Nintendo Switch pretty much instantly, so I don't see that a problem at all. And it just goes down the list. It's not just those games that I mentioned. Nearly every single franchise that has came out on the Nintendo Switch when it comes to a marketing perspective has been boosted, and when it comes to a sales or franchise perspective has been boosted. Xenoblade Chronicles, Bravely Default, Fire Emblem, 3D Mario, Zelda, Super Smash Bros., Pokemon, Metroid, Kirby, all of these have franchise best sales, and Nintendo's history is rich when it comes to it. When it comes to consoles and sales, right? Going all the way back to the NES, the Game Boy, the DS, systems that have sold 100 million plus, and systems that have sold 60 million, systems that have sold 80 million. I mean, it's been across the board. Nintendo's had a range of systems that have varying install bases, and Nintendo has always put their biggest franchises, for the most part, on those systems, and Switch has pretty much beat those systems out at any point, you know, when it comes down to it, not just when it hit 100 million units plus, but even before that. So I'm not worried at all when it comes to the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. When it comes to the marketing or the sales, I think that it's going to absolutely kill it when it comes down to it. But I do want to talk about a few more things here, and what will they have for us when it comes to the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom? There are rumors of the Nintendo Direct coming soon. As of the time that I'm recording this video, maybe by the time that it gets to some of you guys, it might have already been announced, maybe not. We have to wait and see. But I'm guessing we will see the game at a Nintendo Direct sometime soon. Now, for me, the most important things, which I did make a video about this in terms of the pillars and content that I think that we'll see in the game. Check out the link in the description if you want to see more of that. But it's structure, game structure, new features, stuff like that to me is very, very important. How are weapons handled in this game compared to Breath of the Wild? What is the traversal like? What about the main gameplay hook? How about the new combat options? How hard are the bosses and what are they like? What about the puzzles? And are there dungeons? Are there better dungeons? Traditional form? How do they mix it together? Any innovative gameplay features? Stuff like with the heat and the cold and with figuring out different types of puzzles and different types of ways that you can do things. Like Breath of the Wild was completely innovative in that. And how are they going to be able to top that? What are they going to do to build on top of it? There are a lot of questions when it comes to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, but I think that a lot of it will be answered very soon here, and I'm looking forward to that day, because Legend of Zelda for me has always been a great franchise. I've always loved Legend of Zelda, going all the way back to the original NES Zelda. Yeah, I was a Zelda 1 person. I know a lot of you guys got your start on 3D Zelda with Ocarina of Time, and yes, I was in that era too, but to me, the original Legend of Zelda captured my imagination probably more than any other game on the NES, maybe outside of Mario Bros. 3. Mario Bros. 3 was insane with all the different power-ups and everything, but The Legend of Zelda, the original, was just super cool. I loved it so much, and I feel that Breath of the Wild can do something very different. It can bring back that old school feel of the original Legend of Zelda, which it did. Breath of the Wild did that, but Tears of the Kingdom can kind of take that and evolve it to a whole new level. Breath of the Wild already did that, but can it be done again? Can that change be evolved again? Even when you look at games like The Legend of Zelda Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, absolutely fantastic game, but the perfect blend of Zelda going forward. Can that be done? Because I think that there are sometimes two camps when it comes to the 3D dungeon-based Zelda fans, and then also the original or Link to the Past or those type of Zelda fans, right? And then obviously there's the new school Zelda fans in terms of Breath of the Wild. And will this be able to meld all the different styles into one super Zelda game that not only fixes the issues with the original Breath of the Wild, but then also makes its own establishment, makes its own case for Tears of the Kingdom being absolutely better than Breath of the Wild, the game that came before it, in every single way, shape, or form. And that's going to be the super, incredibly interesting thing that I am looking forward to seeing, and I think they have the chops to do, because they've been working on this game for 6 years, man. Like, you don't do that if it's just going to be a cookie cutter, you know, simple Ubisoft style follow-up Far Cry or Far Cry 5, 6, and all that stuff. You don't do that. You would get that game out way quicker. I think that they knew that they had to kind of up the ante on this, or people would just see it as, yeah, it's kind of a cash in, you know, they're just trying to get on that Breath of the Wild hype and everything. So I think that's the reason why they've delayed it, and to make sure that everything is honestly as good as it can possibly be, especially with like enemy variety and ways to traverse and the upgrading that can completely make or break a game for many people out there. So I'm interested to check out everything that's happening. But if you want to check out more on the channel when it comes to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I've got a lot more videos, link in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I appreciate it, and we'll see you for the next video. Peace.